true to what you said on paper.
All right, welcome back to the second hour of At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison, in studio with the rest of the crew. To my right, Helen is here. The Rhodes Scholar is here over there scrolling. And to the right here, the doctor is in the house, folks, giving you a checkup from the neck up, as well as Pastor Hobbs is over there engineering and multitasking here. We always give him fits here this morning, so thank him for his patience here. We want to thank our sponsor, The Money Store. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code 508-345-4726. That's 508-345-4726. Also want to thank Cruz Construction for their continued support, as well as MAMLEO's leadership and the members for their continued support. And if you want to donate to the station, like I said, we're okay here at MAMLEO, but if you want to donate to the station,
Cash App.
It is Cash App, $ capital BPRTV.
One more time.
Okay, that is Cash App, $ capital BPRTV.
And don't go anywhere because you're going to introduce our guests as well. So if you want to be part of the conversation here this morning, the calling number here is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685 is the number. And Brother Rhodes, you're going to introduce our guest here?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Right now, I am proud to introduce to you guys Mr. Shea Justice. He is not only an educator, an artist, an illustrator, entrepreneur. Some of his work is being featured right now at the International Contemporary Art Museum down at the Seaport, and it is highlighting or part of the Juneteenth celebration. And some of his work, I think that he'll best explain it, but he takes historical figures, words, and he juxtapositions them, I guess, through different areas of time. So let Mr. Shea Justice, without any further ado, just tell him a little bit about who you are and what kind of artwork you do.
Okay, thank you. It is an honor to be here on the air and to have been invited to come to this show. I got to tell you, I grew up in Grove Hall, and I remember going to the Woodrow Wilson Middle School and the Oliver Wendell Holmes School.
Okay.
Not that far.
Way back.
Yeah. Oh, we talking way back. And when we behaved ourselves, there were those times my mother would take us to go Kentucky Fried Chicken just down the street.
Oh, wow.
So-
Washington Street. Wow. Yeah, you are.
So coming back here all these years.
He probably
I'm
shopped
like,
at Robert Hall's. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Remember Robert Hall?
Oh, yeah. So coming back here, I'm like, oh, my God, I remember the park down the street. and everything.
Brigham.
So-
Remember Brigham's over in the corner there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think I'm on, brother.
Yeah, you are.
Yes,
Yeah.
Am I?
Yeah. You got to put.
Yep.
That's probably why I'm not on.
We can hear you.
I'm sorry.
It's like that kid that he's running around at the water park, and he's like, "Where's my goggles? Where's my goggles?" He got them flipped on his head. And his mom said, "Huh?"
Oh, man. How could I do that? I can't hear myself.
Can you hear me now?
Can't say we don't have fun in the morning.
Oh, that's great.
So, Mr. Shea,
Yes.
you said you were glad to be here. You changed your mind.
No, this is a good way to start the morning. Have a few laughs. No, this is great.
Absolutely. So, go ahead, Rose. What's up?
Well, I grew up in Grove Hall, and I got into art. I used to get up in the morning on Saturday mornings when I was a little kid, and sometimes at my aunt's house, and watch a TV program called Drawing from Nature with Captain Bob Cottle.
Oh.
And those of us, around this age, we all remember getting up. That's before.
See, now I used to watch Bob Ross, and I could never figure out how he made it look so easy. And so, like, you know.
This was way before Bob Ross.
Okay.
Long before
Okay.
Bob Ross.
Yeah. Captain Bob was the guy. It looked like it was in a lighthouse, but that's the way they shot it. But he was actually in a studio in Needham. And he would say, "Good morning, boys and girls. Today we're going to draw the horseshoe crab." And he'd have a giant screen, or not a giant screen, but a giant board with a piece of paper on it. He would show you step by step how to do it. Well, I'm 4 or 5 years old, and I just could not get enough of trying to follow it. When I was in elementary school, I learned how to write a letter and where to put your addresses on an envelope. And he was one of the first people I wrote to, because at the end of each show, he said, send in your work. It's the same as another TV show called Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knew Box 350, Boston, Mass, 02135. Everyone memorized it. So it was like, oh, how do you send it? And then it was like, oh, you get a stamp. And back then, stamps were like 5 cents.
Captain Bob.
Yep, see? He's still there someplace. And so at the end of every show, he would pan the camera across his stage to show artwork from viewers who sent stuff in. I'm 5 years old, and he showed something of mine
Oh, wow.
on the air.
Oh, that must have
And at that point, I didn't think I was an artist. I knew I was.
Oh, yeah.
And it was sad because at the time, my mom and them was asleep, and I'm like ready to run to tell him, like, get up, I'm on TV. They hadn't invented the VCR yet.
Right.
So they had to take my word. They had to take my word on it that I
You
saw
there?
it. Yeah, they had to take my word on it. But I was like, it stayed with me. It's gonna stay with me for the rest of my life. So it was an honor and a blessing to be a part of something like that, and it just got me on the trajectory that I've been on ever since.
So as they say, if you can see it, you can be it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more. We're going to get a little bit more into your art, but you also are an educator, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about that a little bit. You work in the public school systems, not here
Yes.
in Boston area, but where and what do you teach?
Okay. I teach at Lincoln Sudbury Regional High School, and I teach drawing, painting, and advanced drawing and painting for high school students.
Okay. So it's interesting you say that, because the arts are still something that in the suburban schools, because I live outside the city, that it's still valued, right?
Yeah.
And it's when there's cuts usually here in the city of Boston, the first thing they go after are what people think have no value, arts.
I'm one of the recipients of that.
Okay.
If I
Explain
could
a
have
little
been
bit
in
more.
Boston, I would have stayed in Boston, because I taught. When I first started teaching, I taught in Fort Lauderdale, Florida,
Okay.
at Royal Palm Elementary School. Very awful system set up for the kids. It's definitely guaranteed to set up kids to fail. And as we all know, considering what's happening in Florida now with that governor, it's slash and burn. This for me was like 30 years ago when I started teaching. This was in '93. I came to Boston. I taught at a charter school for a couple of years. Fenway Middle College High School at Bunker Hill Community College. But again, once those cuts start happening, you got to look for something. I tried to get Woodrow Wilson, which was my alma mater, but there were so many other people that were already in line for that job, particularly people who knew folks in the administration. I understand sometimes the nepotism thing has to go a certain way. I just ended up going further and further out, and that's how I ended up in Sudbury. Yeah.
So the funny thing that you mentioned is, like, you said that the system was set up for the children to fail. Like, how did you recognize that pattern there?
I taught at an all-black school in a poor urban area of Fort Lauderdale. People always think palm trees and it's all glamorous, but this was a rough spot. And a majority of the teachers were white. And a lot of those people did not want to be there. It was almost like, this is the bottom of the barrel. I should be teaching at a really fancy place in Miami or Dade or someplace, but I'm stuck here. And they had dropout prevention classes, and this is for fourth graders, fourth and fifth graders.
Fourth graders drop
Fourth
out?
and fifth graders. And again, I'm 23, 24 years old, so I'm brand new to teaching. So, of course, people initially would make fun of me because I'm from Boston. They always say, Boston. You're from... And I'm like, I don't really know anyone that talks that way, so you might want to dial that back, because people don't go park the car in Harvard. Yeah, maybe in, certain other areas, but not where I grew up. And the custodians were very hostile to the kids. There's a certain vibe when custodians, secretaries, and these folks who help keep the machine running of the school, and they start acting a certain way that you realize, okay, they don't like their lot in life, but they better than you.
Right.
And that's always been a problem of mine at certain points. Custodians and sometimes secretaries, they talk like they need to let you know who's in charge, and they do that when you're a new person, and I think particularly a person of color. And if there was a book called Black Teachers on Teaching that came out, and it was several essays by Black teachers from different districts around the country and stuff. I suggest people get this book. If they ever do a follow-up, I'd love to contribute to it about my experience.
The name of it again?
Black Teachers on Teaching.
Black Teachers on Teaching. Okay.
Yeah. I would love it if they made a follow-up
So
because I have a lot
wanna
to say.
Pivots for a second because that's in Helen and Dr. Bradley's wheelhouse. I want to get their take on what you're hearing, Dr. Bradley, on the education piece because you're a professor. You teach at the college level, but it sounds like a lot of our kids won't reach that based on what I'm hearing from Mr. Justice. Is that the system has been in place for failure, not success, for quite some time.
Well, our education system has been in place for failure, yes, and has continued to work that way. He made a comment, and I said to myself, wow, in today's society, we still have this? And he was like, the majority of the teachers was black or white. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but in reality, when we and Siddiqui mentioned this, by the way, after the Civil War, Reconstruction came in. It was 12 years for that period. We created our own schools. They were not. They didn't want to educate us. We created our own schools. We had black teachers, and what was happening. You had schools like Dunbar, in Washington D.C., and they were creating, educating students who were going on to participate in government, and they were doing extremely well. And people were like, whoa. Well, we got to back in on this. We got to control this. And so this book about black teachers on teaching, that's a significant masterpiece, man. I'm telling you, because you begin to see it from a different perspective because you're in it and you're like, well, these people got a good heart. So no, when you look at it from a black person's perspective, who educated, who understands exactly what's happening, you can see the surreptitious movement of defeat that's happening in the school system where you're actually telling people, you're never going to be able to do this. I had a situation, and I went to the Oliver Wendell Holmes Junior High School as well, by the way. I had a teacher who told my mother that I have a PhD. He told me I will never learn. I'm stupid. I'm retarded. All right. I will never learn anything. And my mother said, no, my son is not stupid and retarded. You just don't know how to teach him. That's the real issue.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, Dr. Les Brown, the motivational speaker.
Yes.
Again, like one of the greatest speakers there is. Same thing. The teacher said, "Oh, he's mentally retarded. He's not going to be anything." And again, that's a way to just psychologically break down the kid because they see brilliance in him, but they don't want it.
It's all about conditioning.
Yes.
It is.
It's about conditioning. When you're telling a child, you will never be able to do this, but on the other side of the color barrier, you're saying you'll always be able to do it.
Exactly. And I had a similar experience too, so I've taught at the graduate and at the undergraduate level in criminology and criminal justice. And it is interesting how so much of it, when we teach about the criminal justice system, but so many of the academic staff and even the professors and so forth tend to come from more white backgrounds, right? And even beyond that, some of my earliest memories when I was in the first grade and I would keep asking questions and asking why, you know what the teacher did to me? Put me in ESL, English as a second language. Right? When I was born here, raised here, born in Boston, she put me in ESL when I started asking too many questions.
So the thing is, a lot of people say it's not an education system, it's an indoctrination system. Because again, they tell you from K to 3, you're supposed to learn to read, and from fourth grade on, you're supposed to read to learn.
Right.
And they could tell you by the time they already know like what the reading level is on third grade, they can project what prisons they're going to need in the future.
Well, it's interesting
They do that in
because
South Carolina.
because I'm listening to Dr. Bradley and Helen speaking. The only times I've ever in the background, not putting myself in that I have that there academia. The only time I've ever been invited to come and speak to students was when you two invited me to come out and talk to students. So and it just made me think for a second there. So most of the time they're not getting our perspective on life and what it's like. Because I think sometimes people think that if you're in that role or in that field, that somehow you're embraced. And you said, as a teacher, as a black teacher, you didn't feel the same as your white counterparts. And for a long time and continue, I never felt that, not that I needed a permission, but in law enforcement, right? Being a police officer, that there was a standard for me and a standard for other. There was a standard for women, standard for anyone that wasn't a white male. And even today, we look at when something happens, and most recently the tragic loss of life of a gentleman involving a police officer. and they're rallying around the white officer and the money that's being raised and the support that he's given. And I'm not saying that, people are innocent until proven guilty, but we all know that when that happens to us, we don't get that type of support, that type of, that type of love. So I appreciate you sharing that. Appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
So what's the difference, I want to ask you, of you're out in Lincoln Sudbury, because most of the students that look like you and us are bussed in. They're not from that neighborhood,
Mecca.
right? So you have a group of people where a lot of times, most of the time, their parents are supporting them because they understand that's one of the ways that their children are going to be able to get an education that they can afford, right? But that's not available to everyone, right? What impact is that having on your students there, if at all?
I got to tell you, one of the things that hurts my heart, I've been at the school, I just finished my 29th year. Wow. This Monday will be 29 years I've taught at Lincoln Sudbury. It has hurt my heart in some instances when we got kids from Boston who just don't care. And it really hurts my heart.
But what do you think?
Especially when there's 20 of us in a room and me and him are the only two of color and I'm the teacher. And he the one I have to kind of sit on because he just don't care. He don't want to do nothing.
But why do you think that is? Like, do you think that he's experiencing that environment that you mentioned where they're feeling not welcome? Is there something else where, something that maybe you or the other teachers, or is there something that can be done to help that student?
Everybody's different. So yes. Yeah. And there's probably other factors. Some kids, they know they can get over, they can guilt trip a white liberal teacher to give them a passing grade like it's no one's business. So a lot of people don't want to be called racist.
It's interesting that you say that. In terms of on the flip side of that commentary, I wonder what your opinion is in regards to what we've been seeing in the Boston public schools, where we had the recent news, I don't know if you've been following, where it was approximately a third of our recent high school graduates were actually known to be practically bordering on illiterate, and where we had a number of them where approximately a third was reported, I believe. And then also Mayor Wu's solution to that was getting rid of failing grades altogether.
Yeah, so they removed the F's from the equation.
Removed the F so that then it elevated their grade scoring.
That, with all due respect to the mayor, that's just dumb. Some people got to fail. Now I'm going to start aging myself by saying this. I had a feeling we were going to reach this age of it's more important that your feelings aren't hurt than the reality of the real world, because you're not doing these kids any favors when they go out into the real world. To get rid of the F, the F is a reminder you need to get up and do what you're supposed to do. And so to say, well, we're not going to fail them because it might hurt their self-esteem. Their self-esteem's already hurt because they didn't do anything in the first place.
We're not helping them to survive in the world, right? So
not at all.
How do we talk a lot about how do we for better help, right? How do we take action? What can we as a community do, whether it be our kids, our neighbors' kids, kids in the neighborhood, whatever it may be? How can we as a community help these kids to actually be able to survive in the world? Because they're going to need to know how to read and write and do math and whatever. We know that there are basics in life that you need to know.
Well, first of all, y'all might need to have me on the show again because we're supposed to be here to talk about the art. And I'm engaged. I am so engaged in this that I forgot I got pictures down here. I'm like, I got pictures down here. I'm deep into this.
And then we're going to get into it because, see, this is part of the art. This is part of leading up to that, right? Yeah. Because if we don't understand the basics, right, then we can't get to the drawing, right? Because if our mind isn't processing how we can get a pen in our hand or a crayon in our hand and do, like you said, you had Captain Bob, right?
I also, though, in addition to that, I shouldn't say that's the only thing that got me where I am. No. My parents were from Virginia, Harrisonburg, Virginia. My mother, my father. My dad was from Richmond. Even though I was raised here, certain sensibilities from down south came up with us. One being getting a belt. Okay. Now I know there's people up north who get it, but I had a southern getting a belt experience.
A stick and a feather duster.
See, everybody got one. Everybody got a story. Yeah. But my mother took it very seriously about going to school. I don't want to pass value judgments on students' parents in terms of why kids are failing and stuff, but there is a part of me that's
all I will say is the first teachers for all children are their parents, so it does fall. The apple don't fall too far from the tree.
Well, the other thing too is that
that's true, but some kids have kids.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And they were too young to have them, and it's children trying to raise children, and they don't do it right.
You just went right where I was, because you were reading my thoughts here. That's why definitely an artist. Because I was going to say, growing up, if you had a child at a young age, it was shunned. Yeah. It wasn't embraced. We didn't have these reveal parties and all of this. It wasn't something that we encouraged. And like kids now can bring they have daycare at the school for kids, you know. Yeah. So I get it. You want them to stay in school, but what message are we really sending that this is okay behavior and there are no consequences? I remember one day, and we're gonna get into your art, and I'm with Dr. Bradley. I remember one day I tell this story. I told it before, just to kind of drive it home. When I was a police officer, my sister had a cat. The cat had passed away. So it'd been over a year, and I thought it'd be a good gesture. I was doing a detail in front of the Animal Rescue League. I went in there to try to adopt a cat for her. I figured I'd take it home that day and surprise her. I go in there, they're asking me for all of this. What type of home is it going to? And how's it going to be taken care of? And do they have the means to take care? This is the cat. And I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And then I'm not lying. A few days later, I'm doing a detail in front of the Brigham and Women's Hospital. And then there's this young girl being wheeled out of there. She couldn't be more than 14, 15 years old. And I'm like, okay, does anybody know where she's taking that baby? Whether she has the means to support? The only thing that the lady said they're required to do is make sure they had a car seat to put the child in.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yes.
That's the only thing that was required for her to leave that hospital was a child seat. A car seat for that child, this 15-year-old. And I'm like, there was more emphasis on making sure this cat, and I had no problem with the cruelty, but I'm like, here is a human being that no one knows where they're going.
That's a priority thing. That's a deep dive priority conversation to have, because it's the same as, I don't want to say the same, but it's similar to people who argue in favor of letting their dog, when they walk their dogs, relieve themselves in people's yards. They feel like those dogs aren't beholden to human laws or rights or responsibilities, so I don't got to clean it up.
Right, it's
my dog, and I can let my dog do what he wants because he's not bound by that. That's that's just not having a priority or reality.
Right.
I can't imagine just wheeling a kid outside and just going, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Even during COVID, I think when we tried to adopt a dog, it was like they wanted umpteen years of financial statements, walk through every room in the house, wanted me to fence in the yard. I was like, I'm adopting a dog, not a person. Yeah. But then now to come and think about it, I wonder if adopting a person would have been easier than adopting a dog.
Absolutely. Dr. Bradley.
Well, I think one of the things, and I'm going back to my experience as a director of climate and safety at Randolph. Randolph Public Schools.
That's right. You worked in the school.
I worked in the school system. So one of the things that I found that was really, really difficult for me to kind of wrap my mind around was the lack of parental participation in their children's education. The parents really didn't care. So when people will go to the parent, oftentimes the parent is worse than the child. And the child did not fall too far from the tree.
But could it be that the parent didn't have
That's where I'm going.
a role model?
That's where I'm going. Yeah. So what you have to do is that if you're going to talk about dealing with the education or the lack thereof, you can't. Another essential component is how do we address the needs of the parents, so that the parent will be able to assist or work with the educator to get the child.
But it goes to what Mr. Justice was saying, is that, when you have a child of 15 to 16, the likelihood you're not going to finish school. So education isn't something that you give a priority to. So a lot of times, even then, you don't know what you don't know, right? So if you don't know how to help your child when they come home with their homework, they're going to fall behind.
The first thing you do, though, is and I talked to the principal at the Randolph Public Schools on this, the first thing you do is start looking at how do you design programs so you can offer. When you do come across that situation, you don't know
agree.
How do you design programs so that you can say, okay, if the parent's having a problem with a quadratic equation, we can help the parent, and this is how we can do this. And then what will happen is that will actually take on a life of its own, and other parents will start to learn that, hey, maybe I can get some help as well. So what I found in the public school system, the kids were acting up, not because they didn't want to learn. They were embarrassed because they didn't know how.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Because
I agree.
that's one of the big things that we've discovered in a lot of programs is the fact that the kids, they're acting bad because they're illiterate. And like you ask them to sign their name and they get a little frustrated. And like you said, remember when you were talking about the story, you pull the guy over to the side.
He'd rather go to jail than admit
that he's illiterate.
he
So a
couldn't
lot of
read
these kids
to sign
would rather act
to sign
bad
his name.
than actually admit that they can't read.
As a cover.
They're having no problems with
All right.
it.
617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. Listening at the Roundtable with Mamleo. In studio with us this morning. We're honored to have him, Mr. Shay Justice, artist, educator. So we're going to pivot a little bit, get you. We're going to kind of, it's Juneteenth weekend, Father's Day. If you're a dad, happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
In the art of what you're doing, because being a teacher is an art. Good, Rose.
I was going to say he's got an amazing collage, like I said, that's in display right now at the International Contemporary Art. Definitely go check it out.
And where's that located?
It's in Seaport, like by the water.
Institute of Contemporary Art.
Institute.
And how long is it on display?
It is up until August 3rd.
Okay.
And I'm in another exhibit, the Brick Bottom Gallery in Somerville. That's up till July 12th.
No, we need to get him with T. Michael, a collaboration of art and the copper there.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk a little bit about your art, your artwork.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's a historical collages. Is that how would you describe them?
I think that's part of it. Historical collages. I'll give a little backdrop on it. When I was a kid growing up, my initial desire was going to be a comic book artist. This was back in the days where down the street there used to be a Bradley's or a Zayre's.
Oh, wow, Bradley.
You see so we're going to take it all the way back. So they used to sell comic books in 3-packs, little plastic bag, 3 comics. Much of my early drawing was comic books and superheroes and wanting to do that. Unfortunately, you also get kids who are insecure and have issues. Say, you trying to be white or you trying to not be black because that's just stupid. Mm-hmm. But I still loved it. I had every intention of being an illustrator, and a lot of my friends at the time, we also loved doing graffiti and stuff like this because now we get into the 80s. It wasn't until I went to Boston University I started to see a purpose for what I do. I was a big fan of Dana Chandler's. He's the inspiration to me. He did murals down Dudley Station. I know they call it Nubian Square, but my mind keeps saying Dudley Station. Nubian Square.
Mm-hmm.
But just for the flashback on this, down Dudley, there were murals in Grove Hall. Dana Chandler has done very strong, prolific African-American artist.
Was he the one that there's a mural on the side of the post office? Was he affiliated with that?
No, that's pro-black Rob Gibbs,
who
did the giant piece on the Rose Kennedy Greenway of the young brother doing the pose.
Over there at the museum.
Amazing artist.
There's some of his work there too.
And Quest Burns.
Okay.
Thomas Quest Burns. So they're good friends of mine. They did the one over at the post office. So when I went to college, I ended up having a professor who was the best teacher I've ever had in my life, named Floyd Barber. And he taught African American literature. I took that as a elective course. I even though I was majoring in art and art education, I always liked taking elective courses that I just look what else is out there. I took a women's studies course where I was the only male in the room. Everyone loved me to death, not because of what I said, but because I learned how to just be quiet and listen because everybody got stories. And I'm being honest about that. Everyone has stories, and to just go into this space and just be like, well, as a man, here's how I think you should think. No, just listen. Mm-hmm. My aunt had encouraged me to take classes out of, your own personal space.
Out of your comfort zone.
Out of your comfort zone. So when I was at BU, I did that a lot. Well, Floyd Barber taught these literature courses about African-American history and literature, and I was like, this is the best teacher I ever had. But it started making me think, do I really want to spend my life drawing Batman and Superman when Paul Robeson or Josephine Baker and all these people who up until then I didn't know who they were, because it wasn't like Boston Public Schools when I went had all this readily available. I had to find out through experience. Mm-hmm. So when I was lucky enough to meet Dana Chandler in person, he became a friend and a mentor to me. His work's always been political, The exhibit at the ICA is dedicated to Dana Chandler. He passed away last year, but he had created AMARP, African American Master Artist Residency Program, when he was a professor at Northeastern. So we have studio space over on Atherton Street near Stony Brook on the Orange Line. And so we had this experience of just his work. It's very political, confrontational in terms of telling our history, the ugly sides of the things that have happened to us.
Reality.
What
The
were
reality.
we talking about today?
And I just went with that. And so his brother has always said, his brother Jeff has always said, you're like the legacy to Dana Chandler, which I consider an honor and a blessing to have someone say that about me and my work. And so that's the direction I've gone for like the last 30 years. So when people say, oh, people get upset because the president is now whitewashing black and women contributions to the military and our country's history. The first thing I do is I actually start drawing and writing about the people who are being whitewashed, because they're going to exist in some way, shape, or form. If it means as an artist, me making it present and real, that's what I do.
I'm glad you focus on that, because again, I like your approach to that, because we were talking about we don't need a permission slip to acknowledge who we are. And sometimes we feel like if they're not acknowledging it, then we can't. We need to amplify it even more when the other side is trying to deny our contributions of women and people in this country.
And I'm interested too that you mentioned with regards to the so it's the African American Master Artist in Residence program at Northeastern.
Yep.
Is that program still?
We're still there. Northeastern had decided they wanted to evict us because they had new people at the university. And the problem was, in order to get that space, because this is Jamaica Plain, right? They're way over on the other side. In order to get that space years ago, they had to make room for black artists of color, artists, writers, poets. Well, once their leadership changed, because remember, at Ruggles, there used to be Northeastern had an African American Institute built. They got rid of that.
They got rid of that?
Oh, yeah, that gone.
Because when I went to school there, that was there. On
So
Leon
you remember
Street.
the building.
Yeah, and then they erected a new building.
Yeah,
because
that's gone. That doesn't exist anymore.
I did not know
So
that.
my point in asking was, with the program itself, for those that are, say, the younger version of you today, right? How would you say in terms of being able to continue to chase that dream to a degree, or to continue to actually help still cultivate,
You need to do it.
Yeah.
And feel comfortable in your creative expression. Unfortunately, sometimes people lean on what they say, success has 1,000 fathers.
Well, no, they said victory has 100 fathers. Defeat is an orphan.
It's an orphan. Yeah. And so sometimes I think defeat also has a lot of people celebrating that you didn't make it or that you didn't do what you're supposed to do, but that shouldn't deter you. For all the experiences that I've had as an artist and as a man of color growing up in the city and the things I've done, and I've had this conversation with students of mine who were a little nervous about decisions they were going to make with their lives. I said, the last thing you need to do is think about someone else if you want to do something positive for your life. If you're a kid who's decided, college isn't for me, but I do want to learn how to fix refrigerators and, do stuff with electricity and stuff, then do it.
But to that point, though, people, have always equated with artists as starving, right? And there's only a few like Rembrandt, right? So most people say, well, can I make a living? Why would I want to invest in something that I can't make a living doing? But also to that point as well is because I think it was the piano building over there on Columbus Avenue.
Piano Factory.
Yeah. That was, and it was a big push to push folks out of it, because that was supposed to be designed for people who were artistic in some ways, right?
The great Paul Goodnight is the only one left there.
But wasn't the Seaport originally, like from what I remember, early on? Remember when well, I'm sure y'all remember too. But the Seaport originally was at one point they were supposed to be organizing it, and part of the vision for it was supposed to be as an artist community.
Yeah.
And then somewhere at some point, somebody decided, I guess, they could make more money off of the real estate instead.
Yes.
It's a
High-rise
collision
luxury condos
course.
or something.
It's always a collision course that when poor and working class people get together and have a creative space.
Yep.
This is what happened in Brooklyn and South Bronx that ended up creating hip hop and graffiti and stuff. Once they were like, oh, the highway is going to do this. We're going to build this highway and expand, and they're pushing all the working class and the poor people in these little spaces. The creativity comes through, and then you get wealthy people going, I want to get in on that, but I want a Starbucks over here, and I don't want undesirables, so let's hike the price up a little bit on the apartment. It's no longer an apartment, it's a condo.
Like San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, a lot of our very artistic communities.
So we're right now, AMARP is one of the last persons standing in terms of fighting against this, because Northeastern has reneged on what was initially a space for artists of color.
Yeah, because again, when there's no pushback in the people who, because it was, if I'm not, I forget the general, it was renamed after, when the new building was erected, it was named after one of the instructors or one of the elected officials here in the Commonwealth. I forget who's. It wasn't O'Brien, but there was. And I've been in that building. I thought it was still there. I haven't been over there in a long time. I know I've seen it grow.
Piano Factory.
Yeah, no, over in Northeastern. It used to be the Black Art Institute, and surprising because. The first one was a very rundown. I remember being sent when my first year there. They sent me over there to find it, and I was scared to go in the building, the old one, because I thought it was haunted or something. I'm like, oh, this is where we are. And then they finally shamed themselves enough where they built the new building.
It was beautiful.
Really nice. Yes, it was really nice.
It was like 3 floors.
Right, yes, it was.
They had a library. If you wanted to get a back issue of Ebony or Jet, they had all that stuff.
Right.
Oh, it was beautiful.
But again, there's no pushback. We just watch it erode.
Then I would wonder, Larry, you yourself as a Northeastern alum, and then if you do keep in contact with other fellow alum to maybe let them know, like, hey, what's happening with the program? Is there any sort of movement or any sort of, alumni association or email at like something we could send out to let them know what's happening with the program?
I guess we can start one, because clearly I had no knowledge that this had taken place, and
it's been going on for a while.
Dumbfounded that this is gone, because I thought that was erected to be
was
permanent.
An actual building.
Yes,
they got rid of a building, so they definitely want to erase our history.
Right. Yeah.
I have a quick question, because I have a family member who's an artist. I want to know if you know. His name is Marlon Forrester.
Yes.
You know Marlon?
He's in AMARP with me.
Yes.
He's in the ICA exhibit with me.
Yeah. Marlon is my son-in-law.
Okay.
He's my son-in-law.
No, you guys should definitely
Brother
go
Marlon
to the exhibit.
Forrester. Okay.
Yeah.
Seriously, go to the exhibit. Take
Tell
your
him
family.
we know each other. Tell him we talk. And we
Okay,
on the air here.
please
Yeah, he's an
take your
amazing
friends,
artist.
Take the time to go to
That's
these
my daughter.
exhibits.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
February 12th to August 2nd.
That's my child.
It's a really, I'm telling you guys, it's a very.
And I
immersive
know everybody.
experience.
I know everybody.
So, Mr. Just let's because for folks, you brought some of your art along before we get away here. So we said can we see a little bit of what you do?
Absolutely.
And how you do it?
All right. Now,
Again, this won't do it justice, but
I've heard that one a lot of times. Okay, so it's
we finally
only
found a
us in
job.
the studio
We finally
can
found
see
a
it.
job that Rose can handle.
So
I'm still here.
we're in studio. So obviously, is there a camera?
Yes.
Yeah, right there, pointed towards that one.
All right. So here's some examples I've done some years back. Ma Rainey, Miles Davis, different artists. There's Morgan James Peters, Marlene, who's a good friend of mine, who's a great musician. So I pieced them together. When someone asks me about what medium I like to use, my habit or my thing is it depends on how I feel. I can work in pastels, watercolors, as you see with these.
So there's hope for us. You can do something with us.
I'm a school teacher. You got an afternoon. The only thing I would tell you is the same thing I've told my students the last 20 years. Don't come into my room with the mentality I just can't draw, because you're capable. If you can understand the concept of the elements and principles of design, line, value, shading, texture, overlap, it's a language in and of itself.
No, I don't want to put any kind of pressure, but like, how long? Because these are beautiful, right? Like something like this. How long does it? Because someone like you who's skilled, how long would it take you just to do one of these drawings on average?
It depends on size. It depends on what I'm doing, my mood, what's on TV, or if I'm playing music. It varies.
Like Prince is James Bond. It's so cool.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
I like the Buffalo Soldier down there. on the rodeo.
They did.
Oh, these aren't Buffalo Soldiers. These are the brothers who participated in
The rodeo,
rodeos,
yeah.
and one of them who was famous for doing this thing when they're riding the bulls and
Yeah.
they're bucking like crazy. He would bite it on its lip and have his hands flying through the air while he was wrestling it before he
So now,
roped it.
where do you get your inspiration? Is it something that kind of just comes to you, or is it like you have a subject matter that somebody has sent to you and say, "Hey, can you do something with this?" How do you come about with
My
your
inspiration comes from a lot of reading, conversations with friends, relatives about certain things. My inspiration comes from evil.
evil?
For instance,
Okay,
Donald Trump is
I would say he
very
must be all in
inspiring.
this here.
Not in this, but he's very inspirational. And the institutions that happen in this country that hurt and impact us as people of color inspires
So,
me.
if you had to, based on what you just said and what's going on in this country, if you had to put together a collage of America right now, right? We're coming up on 250 years. How would you bring us from there to where we are today? What would that look like?
A collage of America, what it is now.
And where we came from and where it is today? Because I see you have a little
Where we
bio.
came from and where it is today.
Yes.
I think the best symbol of that would possibly be if I took the White House and just smashed it to pieces.
Okay.
Because when you look at the UFC, Michelle Obama comment,
Yeah.
and the things that have been done, and the lack of respect and dignity for the institution. And let's be honest, there was not a lot of respect and dignity in that institution for Black people from the beginning.
Right.
But this was on a whole other level of swamp. And I use that word very
You mean like the reflecting pool?
Oh, yeah. That it would be just the ugliness of what has happened to our country and how it's debased itself, that you build all this stuff and do all of this damage just because it's your ego and who you are and stuff. And the fact that people willingly voted for this person for that, that's a whole other conversation.
Well,
we could
the same
continue
thing
on.
they said that Nazi Germany, people voted in for that.
Mhm.
Well, I think also part of it too is also.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, okay. So sorry. Well, the same thing is about the same thing about Nazi Germany. People voted in for that. And
Yeah.
actually, this is one of the pieces
This is
that's
a
there.
copy of one of the pieces.
You did this?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh wow.
It's
Have you
the
seen this, Dr.
original
Brown?
is on display at the ICA.
Yes.
It's I take copies of the Constitution
That's-
and I draw on them,
yeah.
Yeah.
and then
I
what
need a
do
copy
is
of
I
that.
text and images.
That's what's at the ICA. Yep. He has two, and he has a long piece that goes with the beginning of the country all the way to where we are today.
That's
So-
what I can
okay,
talk about.
yes.
That's about 2 miles in length.
Yes.
What has been the response to your display at?
At the ICA.
Yes.
It's a little strange because it's our group show. For some reason, the Globe and the Herald haven't really
Covered
pushed
it?
us as much. It's like barely a mention.
See, it makes you, and that's another question, right? Part of it too is another version of our conversation about the silencing,
So silence of the
by
media.
just not even
Acknowledging.
talking about it.
Yes.
But
But I wonder if he was a different shade of skin, it would have been all over.
Now, also because like
I'm pretty sure.
let's be real. Just because of location, right?
Mhm.
That people who can't afford to park in the seaport
Yeah.
or have to take public transportation to get there, and it's competing with the World Cup soccer.
Oh, yeah. And all the beer gardens around there were packed yesterday.
It was jam packed yesterday, but
Yesterday.
even opening night, I've been there since the exhibit went up. I've been there about 5 times. My teacher from high school wanted to go.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, if you want to come, just meet me there. And if you go with one of the artists, it's free.
Mhm.
So I've been there at least 5 or 6 times. Every single time I've gone, it's been jam packed.
Packed.
Okay.
There's just always people
that's good.
there.
Yeah.
That's good.
So
it's a great location.
It's
But how
a little-
diverse is the crowd?
It's very diverse.
Okay, that's
very
interesting
diverse.
because
Good.
Yeah.
that's
For me, it's not
Yes.
just about the diversity as much as it is getting those young people in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What would you say would be a good way to do that in terms of like, is there like a circuit? Like, you know how when art, like musicians, they'll go on tour, right? Is there maybe some sort of like a mini tour of the artists at the different high schools in the city or in
Yes.
the area?
As a
And
matter
then
of
so
fact,
they can
my
kind of
students
invite.
from Lincoln Sudbury.
There you go.
We went on a school field trip there.
So good.
So I brought about 50 kids. A number of them were MECO students who they didn't have to come to school. All they had to do was get
Yep.
up the tea and came. And
They're happy about that.
I'm like, wait a minute, you ain't even in my class.
Yeah.
But okay, come on in.
Come on in.
You know, some of them came anyway. I was like, that's cool.
So have you been seeing some good positive reception from like the kids, like, or has that been helpful to get more kids in?
Yeah, one of the kids said something to me that made me tear up a little bit, and they just looked at me and said, "I'm proud of you." And I just, see, I got that look on my face. It was like, thank you, and everything. So it was one of the most gratifying experiences of my entire professional career to be a part of an exhibit with AMARP, to have been inspired by Dana Chandler's murals, growing up in Roxbury, and in full circle, bringing my students to see the experience.
So,
And just not to interrupt, but I would say that's another reason why it's so important. Any of you Northeastern alum also out there listening or know of other Northeastern alum, spread the word. AMARP needs help right now to make sure that we continue the program and keep it going strong.
So I know this because Pastor Hobbs is looking at this, and I'm reading his mind because he's saying he's healing our land and the people behind the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any displays of folks who are in those situations in your
People that are incarcerated
in your repertoire?
Yes.
Okay.
Not in this,
but
this is just one small part of it. I mean, if I'd have known you wanted me to bring some,
no. Reason why I say that is I think it's important for people to see that this is great art, but also some of the realities of.
You might not have people behind the wall, but you do have the institution of slavery being, highlighted
right.
here.
But we need the modern day version,
or even that art. Yeah, art can come from so many places too, right? I think art is also one of those programs that are often like with those that are convicted or in prison.
That's a great point because also, right, having something like, I mean, Pastor Hobbs, you help me out here. Is this something you think like people there would benefit from therapeutically, right? Because it can take you even behind the wall. It can bring you outside, right? Because this doesn't stay behind the wall. Your thoughts and prayers, they might have your human person incarcerated, but I think this allows people to move outside of that wall.
Absolutely. Oh, I totally would. I encourage that. Art. That's why they have the program of art therapy as a major in colleges, in order to help people with traumas or experiences process it through a creative lens. I definitely agree. Art therapy and using it as a way of helping.
Because when you talk about graffiti, I think that was a way of folks expressing themselves, right?
Yes.
The graffiti artists,
Absolutely.
right? And people see it as, but this is people expressing how they're feeling. Yeah.
I love this.
Or being heard.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's actually, if you
being
think about
heard.
it, between whether you're adult, child, teenager, whatever it may be, maybe if there are times that you're feeling down, think of it another outlet. Right? Art may be a way you want to start discovering a way of expressing yourself and finding your voice.
And not even just art per se, but poetry,
Exactly.
songwriting. One of the things I respect about the ICA is they have a special program on the other side of it for high school kids who want to be DJs.
And what's the program?
It's ICA's. It's a
The
youth
art lab.
program. It's
Yes,
like
the
right
art
around the corner. at the
Yeah.
building. Yeah. Because they did a photo project of me and a number of the other artists where they interviewed us and took photos of us and then did a display about it, describing us and our work.
So you said last night the party was off the hook. He said at the party.
Do you have do you have a favorite
portrait of my son in a gas mask and the fear of the Illuminati and the money-making wealthy people that are going to try to oppress him? And I did this 20 years ago. He's almost 30 now.
What's your favorite piece within your portfolio here? Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, but we'd have to flip to get to it.
Keep going.
Let's see. This was from Dolomites Signifying Monkey from the 70s that my mom.
Jesse Jackson.
Yeah.
That's Reverend
Jesse,
Jackson.
Malcolm X there.
I did these as a portfolio piece because I had always wanted. I tried this with Bay State Banner and they rejected me, but I always liked the illustrators in the Boston Globe's editorial section. So you say an article about Jesse Jackson, and then there's an illustration to it in the editorial section. I really wanted to do that, and Bay State Banner said, no, we're not taking anyone for that. But I said, well, I'm going to still keep doing it, and maybe one day someone will. So a lot of the illustrations I do are the headshot stuff, because I'm thinking of the composition of if there's text around it and it's in a newspaper lens. I did a lot of illustrations of Paul Robeson and putting him in like crazy science fiction and stuff.
This
like
I saw at the institute.
And then let's see, I'll keep going here. demonstrations, just practicing using pen and ink in a illustration class I had taken at Mass Art, and just learning, getting the feel of using pen and ink when I draw.
You know, obviously this is a classic picture, but you
American
changed.
Gothic.
Yes. And then who'd you put in there instead?
James Beckworth, who was a great explorer, and Hattie McDaniel.
I thought that was her from Gone with the Wind.
And then I will definitely find out a little bit. James Beckworth, you said?
James Beckworth. Beckworth's passed. He was basically a black explorer who was great friends with a lot of Native Americans as he was helping.
Now, how are we able to combine the history, because there's a lot of history in what you do as well, with these photos? Because I think that's where we perish, because of the lack of knowledge of who came before us.
Yeah.
Curiosity, intellectual curiosity, and interest. I think it will come to that. If it's something out there that's, again, I get inspired by monsters and Donald Trump with, we're going to whitewash.
So you'll be
y'all's
busy
history.
for the next 20 years. But
when we get to the conversation about the scrolls I've been working on, you'll see 20 years has been what I've been
so
doing.
we're gonna running up against the clock, so we're definitely gonna have you come back. But I think also because in this day and age of AI and technology,
You missed a piece.
is it
I know, but people won't see
is it more difficult to get people to sit still and look? I know you said it's been packed, to get young people to engage, because they can't focus more than 2 seconds without them wanting to grab their phone.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad that some public schools, like the high school I teach at, you can't have your phone in the class. We have a special box. I call it phone jail, and you got to put it in there as soon as you walk into the room. These are the pieces in answer to your question, because I spent a lot of time on them. If you go to Boston University's Howard Thurman Center at GSU, it's the center of the campus. In the basement, they have Howard Thurman was a mentor to Dr. King. Downstairs, there's a room dedicated to Dr. King. In it are these 4 posters that BU had hired me to illustrate from when I was a freshman at the school for the celebrations.
This is spectacular.
So this was the last one right here that they gave them out on campus, and they usually they have text of saying this is where the celebration is, this is where the food and the reception is. And then this was my dedicated piece to Paul Robeson.
Wow. Okay.
So if I were to answer your question about favorites,
This would
because of the amount of time and the research on Paul Robeson and his history, Dr. King and certain aspects of the civil rights movement, I wanted to do something with the 4 little girls. And so these ones are probably my favorites. Plus it's much larger scale.
So much
well,
to-
we've got about 2 minutes, so we want to let you finish up on the mic. Appreciate this art. I mean, this is a work of art.
Thank you.
You know, really enlightening. Anything that we didn't cover that you wanted, we're going to give you the last 2 minutes to highlight.
Again, as I said earlier, it's thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's been our pleasure.
Marlon gonna be smiling when we have a conversation. I'm like, yeah, father-in-law right next to me. I like this opportunity to, as a teacher and as an educator, but also as a black man from Roxbury, to tell students, if I know there's probably students that are going to be hearing this and things like that. If you have dreams, follow them. And don't let people tell you what you can and you ought not to, or what defines blackness is. You shouldn't go in this direction and you shouldn't go in that direction, because that's the stuff I had struggled with as
That's
a kid.
the song, "The Sounds of Blackness." That song just uplifts. I don't know if you quote "The Sounds of Blackness." That
Keep your
song,
head to the sky?
Yeah, "Keep Your Head to the Sky."
Yes.
That should be the national anthem for us.
That should be.
In some ways, incorporated in there, because it's exactly what you're talking about.
And I would just say that. And that our stories need to be told, especially because they must be powerful, because you got people going out of their way to get rid of them or hide them.
That's a good point.
So,
Amen on that one.
you know, pen is mightier than the sword, but so is so is charcoal, so is watercolor brushes, so is acrylic brushes, mightier than the sword. Let's do what we got to do. Keep our history alive.
I love that.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming in. We'd love to have you again. Definitely.
Absolutely.
No, this has been great. Like I said, it is Father's Day weekend.
Black
All right, folks, just a little tease there. That's the sound of the blackest one. Thank you, Mr. Justice, for coming in. Rose, thank you for grabbing brother Dr. Bradley, all the dads out there, especially my friends, brother Marcus and others. I want to wish you fathers and Eddie, happy Father's Day. Thank you for being the men that you are. Dr. Bradley, I want to thank you personally for the inspiration that you put in my life. And with that said, I'll let you close us out.
Be blessed.
All right.
I wrote 100 songs in 1 year, Boogie will tell you I'm on it. I got unreleased songs for days, they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game. It ain't a challenge if your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward. I can see through the lies you ain't living what you spitting. If your money's so long, why your dog's in prison? Why your baby mom's stripping, why your mom's still living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'. You ain't gotta lie to me to sell me a track. You ain't gotta rock fake jewels or walk around strap. I respect artists getting money, but love them for spitting crack. And the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst. And the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer. Cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard. Hustle real hard, hustle so if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya. No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.
I always dreamed